Payday 3, Payday 3, Payday 3 seems to be all anyone can talk about. Payday 3's release date is slated for September of 2023, and after years of being in the dark, we finally have an onslaught of news. The reveal gameplay trailer, the Payday 3 FAQ, and even dev diaries have started up again, all of which bring promising information about Payday 3. Is there hope for Payday 3? Can it become the awesome game that everyone is hoping it will be? Because let's face it, Payday as a series has its ups and downs. Some people are burnt out from the constant paid DLC, others unhappy when microtransactions got added, and most recently, the debacle with Epic Games Store has left some questioning if Payday 3 really has their best interest in mind. Today, I'm going to go over all the information we have available and give you guys all the juicy details. In a previous video, I did a breakdown of the gameplay trailer. I'll leave a link to that in the description and as a card somewhere in the top right corner of your screen. This covers a lot of the new gameplay elements that were teased, as well as a few of my criticisms. So for this video, I want to focus mainly on the dev diary and the Payday 3 FAQ. To start things off, I'm just going to take a brief look at some of the differences between the reveal gameplay trailer and the dev diary. Now, if you watch my breakdown video, you'll know that my main criticisms of the trailer was that I wasn't impressed with the visuals, mainly the human models, the textures, the color grading, and that the animation didn't look quite right, especially for gunplay. It looked too bouncy and cinematic, like GoPro footage. Of course, some people disagreed. A few made comments that were quite mean, because apparently I'm still too critical. But, thankfully, the newest dev diary did quell a lot of my fears on the gunplay and the animation. Here's a quick side-by-side comparison of the footage. And it looks a lot better in the dev diary than the trailer. I was right, goddammit. They did make it too cinematic for the damn trailer. They should have just used the dev diary as the trailer. But I digress. So let's move on to the new gameplay phases that were mentioned. One called Search, which is mainly for stealth, and one called Negotiation, which seems to be mainly for going loud. In Search, guards are semi-alert, and instead of doing their usual patrols, they are actively searching for the player. With Negotiation, the amount of hostages you have can influence the timer before enemies come at you, and it was mentioned that you can trade them for either more time or supplies. Both prospects are welcome additions, especially considering how stale Payday 2 became for both stealth and loud. Gameplay design is very map dependent, and over the years, many mechanics were simply lost because they were never explored again. For the stealth enthusiasts, we know that some maps previously had a few unique styles. We had control stealth, where technically you're alerted, but you have to control civilians and cameras as to not alert the police. We also had a few instances, very few instances, of assassin stealth, like Big Oil Day 1 and Scarface Mansion, where the goal is to kill quickly and quietly without being spotted. And of course we had traditional stealth, complete your objective without being seen at all. Unfortunately, only the last option remained for Payday 2. Here's your objective, you have 4 pagers, good luck. The lack of variety in the later years of Payday 2 really sucked, and I hope that we can explore more options for a nuanced stealth in Payday 3. Similarly, the loud also lost a lot of features. Just take Bank Heist for example, one of the very first missions in the base game of Payday 2. Holding a lot of hostages delayed that very first assault wave, even extending it a couple minutes if you had enough. But now, almost every heist goes like this, or every loud heist that is. You go loud, assault in 15 seconds, you kill 200 enemies, break in the assault for 15 seconds, next assault starts, repeat until you're done. You don't really have any ability to influence this, and the breaks in the assault, where you're meant to trade hostages or do objectives, they just became shorter and shorter, where it feels like there's no breaks in the assault at all. Again, if Payday 3 actually creates more mechanics for the players to have control over, it would make it feel a lot more nuanced than just the average arcade FPS shooter, so I do have high hopes that these gameplay phases can shake up monotonous gameplay. The last gameplay feature that was shared in the dev diary is holding up hostages. This was also featured in the reveal gameplay trailer, and here it's stated that you can use them as meat shields. It was also shown that they have use in the negotiation phase, where you can supposedly trade them out for time or supplies. For me, I think the most exciting prospect of it is how I can see it being useful in stealth so you can move civilians or dominated guards without having jank AI trying to follow you or relying on shotguns to fling ragdolled bodies out of sight. I also hope that it can synergize with stuff like skills so it's an actual mechanic and it's not really just an afterthought for stuff like the harder difficulties. So that covers the gameplay portions of the dev diary. They also covered a lot of lore and setting information regarding Payday 3. I'll try not to speculate here too much because I feel like, there's no way to actually predict what they're gonna do. So what we do know is this. Payday 3 takes place in New York instead of Washington. It will feature the original gang, which is Dallas, Wolf, Chains, and Hoxton, as well as 2 more heisters at the start of the game. So for me, I always love Chains the most. I'm not invested on who I want the last 2 to be, but personally I think there's probably a decent amount of people that will want a bit of representation from the fairer sex. It'll also be curious how they handle Wolf going forward, as his voice actor was not present for the entirety of Payday 2, meaning he never got updated voice lines for even the smallest of additions like callouts for medics. But even so, he was quite a beloved character for his really crazy personality, so I wonder if they're going to try to emulate that, or just try to form something new for the character. He also has a new voice actor, which will be covered in the FAQ section of the video. Also mentioned in the dev diary is that there will be lots of story ties to New York, as well as lots of hints that old characters will return and affect the story. My safe picks for that are Locke and Vlad. They were the most active and integral to actual story elements, so I can see them being there from the start. As for the others, who knows? It was also mentioned that collaborations will continue to be a thing, kind of like how we got Jacket from Hotline Miami, or John Wick from, John Wick. The focus at the start of the game, though, will be on the main gang, though they do plan to expand collaborations in the future. Honestly, I do quite like collaboration characters and heists and all that good stuff, but if there's one thing that I wish Payday did better, is just base character interaction, especially among the main crew. If any of you have ever played Vermintide or Vermintide 2, that's basically what I want. There's always discussion amongst themselves about past stories, likes, dislikes, what they've been doing, what they've done. It happens all the time. During missions when there's downtime and a long stretch of nothing, or there's triggers for certain conversations like in a new area. Even in the main lobby when we're all just hanging out and nobody's doing anything, people will be talking. That game gave so much life and color to the characters, and I really hope that Payday 3 does something similar, because so far the only real chances that these characters have to express personality is through pager voice lines, and that's not a whole lot. So that was mainly it for the dev diaries. Let's move on to the FAQ. Here we have a lot more technical information, some of which was shared in the dev diary, so I won't go over it again. Let's just break it down one at a time. What is the release date of Payday 3? September 21st, 2023. Personally, just refer to this more as a guideline than a set in stone date, but that's just me. What is the engine the game is developed in? Unreal Engine 4, with plans to move to Unreal Engine 5. So I think this is good news, but I do retain a bit of skepticism on the actual implementation, for a few reasons. I saw some comments telling me already that this is great because it's an automatic upgrade and there's somehow visuals will improve and there'll be less bugs, but I don't know. Feel free to correct me for all the video game devs out there, but I don't think that's quite how it works. Most likely they'll be porting over assets they've already made, so unless there's a conscious effort to update textures, animations, or even how they handle stuff like lighting, wouldn't it just look the same but on a different engine? I can't really see the devs going out of their way to redesign everything just for an engine switch. As far as performance and bugginess goes, well, that really depends on the devs. There are plenty examples of modern games on modern game engines that run like horseshit because they're poorly optimized. But at the same time, there are also games running on old technology that run and look amazing. My main example being Killing Floor 2. Now, I know that this game has a lot of issues with DLC and content cycles, but personally, I think it's a great looking game with fluid animations, tight gameplay, and solid visuals. And it was done on Unreal Engine 3. So simply an engine change isn't enough to convince me that things will be better, but it does allow for more potential. That is, if it ever comes to fruition. I mean, they didn't even give a date or anything for this one. Which characters will be in Payday 3 at launch? Well, we already know this one. It's going to be Dallas, Chains, Hoxton, and Wolf, and also the 2 additional ones that we don't know about. What talent can we expect in Payday 3? Simon Kerr and Pete Gold voiced Dallas and Hoxton since Payday the Highest. Awesome, awesome. Damien Poitier as Chains from Payday 2, and introducing Niklas Berglund? I'm sorry, I probably butchered that. The new voice actor for Wolf. so that's exciting. Where will the game take place? Payday 3 will take place in New York, yes, yes. Will this game be available on the consoles too? Yes. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS. I have no idea what Xbox is doing with their naming scheme these days. Okay, this is great news for all the old Payday 2 console players, which the world has probably forgotten about. There have been a couple of games where I myself have played where I was on the flip side as the minority, and we didn't get the same attention to servers or updates, and I do know how frustrating that can be. And yes, I am already well aware, it's Payday 2's engine. It was atrociously bad. They had to develop multiple versions of the game for each platform. I get it. I understand the reasoning. But imagine you're a console player and you see PC players getting all these cool weapons and heists and characters, and the reason the devs gave to you was it's too hard, it's too much work. I'd imagine they'd be pissed. In fact, I know they were pissed because they directed that energy at me. And I'm not even someone Overkill/Starbreeze considers as a partner anymore for 5+ years now. And now imagine the flip side, where I tell people that Payday got abandoned on consoles, and I'll get them telling me, it ain't easy for the devs, they have good reason, you should stop bitching about it. Imagine thinking that being a content creator is a fun job. So for the next few questions, I'm just going to go over them all together, and then I'll talk about it after. How much will the game cost at release? It will be $40. If I pre-order the standard version now, am I locked out from getting silver or gold? No, they will also offer upgrade packages. What is included in the Season Pass? Silver has the first 6 months of DLC, which will be 2 heists, 2 tailor packs, 2 weapon packs. Gold has the first year of DLC, or 12 months, which is 4 heists, 4 tailor packs, and 4 weapon packs. Payday 3 will be similar to what you had in Payday 2 for DLC. Will Payday 3 have microtransactions? Yes, you can buy Payday 2 Payday credits separately. However, these are only for purchasing additional cosmetic items. They will not affect gameplay. That was probably the most disappointing of all the new Payday 3 stuff. They also left out the prices of the silver and gold edition, so I'm just going to share this, which shows the prices and what each edition gives. Silver edition being $70. Gold edition, $90. Holy fuck, that's an expensive 1-year season pass. I remember when season passes used to be like $10 or some shit, not $50. There's also a physical collector's edition going for $130 at Best Buy, but this also includes physical goods, so can't comment on that. If you guys watch my breakdown video, you'll know I'm not really happy with any of this. This is pretty predatory pricing, but it's also extremely common for the gaming industry today. That doesn't make me any less okay with it. I mean, you're telling me that $50 is worth 4 heist suit skins and 4 weapon DLC? A whole nother game's worth of content? These must be some amazing ass heists. They better be. Pre-orders in general, they're an awful practice, and given the choice, I would never pre-order. You're giving a shitload of money to publishers when you don't even know how good the game is. So instead of making smart purchases, you're being goaded by FOMO, or fear of missing out. What if you can't get these cosmetic bonuses anymore? What if you really want to play it early? What if your friends already had their fun, and now you're afraid of missing out on that? I know specifically it says in the FAQ that the DLC is available to buy anytime, but what if the price increases? What if it's not a nice bundle for sale like it is now? When you pre-order for promises, but what if it underdelivers? What if the game isn't as good as you thought it'd be? What if you've played too much to be able to refund it? And don't even get me started on that season pass. That price is insane. It's also very convenient to split up content. So say that the game is supposed to have 10 heists, but you want players not to be too happy with the base version of the game. You want to sell your DLC, right? Well, how about you take 4 of those missions, sell it as DLC, and have just 6 heists in the base game. All your problems solved. Of course, no game company will ever admit this is true, but logically speaking, from a business standpoint, why work harder when you don't need to, and your customers already paid for it? Both the base game and future content can be compromised because of this. So you've got a really expensive ass season pass, and they also plan on you buying more stuff from the in-game microtransactions, or MTXs, probably in the form of weapon skins.
Well, why are you so against skins, Jen? They won't affect the game. Who cares?
Well, I do, and here's why. So yes, in the FAQ it states that microtransactions won't have gameplay effects, which is funny because Payday 2 is one of the few games in existence that I can think of that tried to break that trend by selling weapon skins that affected stats. But no, this is not where the issue lies. The issue is that oftentimes the MTX shop in-game gets more focus than the game itself. There are quite a few games where the MTX shop gets more consistent updates and runs a whole lot smoother than the actual game, which may be suffering from bugs, content drought, or bad balance. Destiny 2 is a good example. Darktide is another. I'm sure there are people that can give their own examples. Okay, sure, realistically speaking, the people making the skins are not the same people designing maps, fixing code, or writing dialogue, but the fact that a game can revolve so much around the MTX shop alone makes you question where their priorities are. Is it actually about making the game better, or are they just trying to get you to buy more skins?
But no, Jen, this is just to support the devs.
Sure, if it weren't for the price of that season pass. The only game I can think of where I'd say the MTX shop was a I support the dev shop was Monster Hunter World. You buy the base game, and it's very complete. And then you get a year full of free content, new monsters, arc temper challenges, seasonal events, collaborations, not a dime spent. And when they did drop the Iceborne DLC, which, it cost quite a bit, almost as much as the base game, but you essentially bought an entire second game worth of content. Is 4 heists, suit skins, and 4 weapon DLC worth a whole nother game in half that amount of time? I'd love it if the answer were yes. One that I haven't played much of, but people regularly tell me is also a great example, is Deep Rock Galactic. It's priced and handled fairly, and the MTX shop is purely just to support the devs. So, look, I'm sorry, I spent a lot of time on this topic, but I feel very, very strongly about this. It's not just for Payday 3, it's games in general. But to see so many of my own comments tell me that I'm just complaining too much and that it's completely fine, no, it's not. There are real problems here that affect the consumers. And I get it, things are expensive and everything is they just cost more to make, and this is also just the way things are now. But that's the same mentality that perpetuates this downward spiral of predatory pricing and MTXs, and game companies taking advantage of the consumer. I don't say this just to be negative or mean. I continue my futile efforts to hopefully spread knowledge about it, and maybe if enough people are aware, it forces developers to create a product they can stand behind and avoid all the things I mentioned that plague the other games. I want Payday 3 to exceed my expectations and prove me wrong. I don't mind paying a ton of money if it's something good, but it has to be worth that money. And the pricing of the Season Pass and the MTXs, they just don't instill that confidence. Alright, next. When will we see some Payday 3 gameplay? Well, we've already seen it now, and they'll also be doing more dev diaries, so I do look forward to that. Which platforms support Payday 3 crossplay? All of them! So I guess that means console, Steam, and most likely Epic Game Store. I know a lot of people got turned off by their Epic Game Store shenanigans, and I'm quite against the Epic Game Store myself, but not so much to deny people from playing a game they want to play just because of it. I do think that crossplay will be very healthy for the game and keep the player base alive, more so than having isolated platforms. So as long as it's not broken, like what happened with Payday 2, I'm all for it. Who is the main composer for Payday 3? Gustavo Coutinho. Well, I miss Simon. I'm sorry, but honestly, I just can't even recognize most of Payday 2's music after a certain point. It's just not very memorable. But I kind of understand and respect his decisions. What DLC and other updates can we expect after release? Well, they can't share their plans except for what's given from the 4 heists, 4 Tailor packs, and 4 weapon packs. Will Payday 3 have this or this or that? Of course they're not going to tell you. Well, okay, well that was another long-ass video from me. Honestly, like with most things, it's really just going to come down to the execution. It seems to me, from a gameplay standpoint, that Overkill/Starbreeze are really looking to up their game, which is wonderful, but at the same time they're doubling down on the paid live service and microtransactions. Maybe it gets handled well, maybe it won't. But if you came this far, well, God damn. Thanks for listening to the ramblings of an old man that has lost his place on YouTube.